numbers have dropped. And I guess it goes back to the question of saying, whose evidence is out there? And I need to also just indicate, in recent times, and I need to also give a picture that in 2011, there was a study that was done which highlighted that there was a need to improve the situation of the infrastructure in schools in and around South Africa. And when it was done, it highlighted about 300 schools that needed to be done or that needed to be improved. And as I speak with you, we have monitored and checked and verified that 208 state-of-the-art schools have been built. And that picture is not out there. And as a monitor, I'm asking myself, what did I do wrong? If that picture is not in your mind or is not in your disposal, that means something is not correct. Taking it further, in Eastern Cape alone, there were 298 schools which were mud schools. As of September, or I'll say beginning of this year, 148 schools were completed or were built. And those schools had everything that you would need in a patriotic school, even though they were actually located or they are located in rural areas. So colleagues, I'm not going to go into this big jargon about monitoring and evaluation, but I want us to be activists ourselves. As monitoring and evaluation practitioners, when you see something that is wrong, please be an activist. But also, even when you see something that is right that is happening, share the story. And what we have picked up and what I've seen happen, and I wanted to also show that picture with you, that as much as, yes, there's all the wrong that is happening, there's also amazing things that are happening out there. There's a child now in the Eastern Cape who, when we were interviewing them, said to me, at least now we also have a university in our village. He was referring to a school that was recently built. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much everyone for... No, it's fine, it's fine. I would like to thank our speakers for sharing such rich experiences with us. Thabo has reminded us that we need to be activists and we also need to share the good stories. And so thank you for that, Thabo, for reminding us that we need to look at the positive while we also pay careful attention to what's not working. And so now we would like to hand over to all of you to put to the speakers any questions that you have in mind, and also any comments or additional contributions that you think are extremely important to include in our discussion today. So I will take a round of persons from the audience, and then I will ask some of our speakers to respond. Can you also say your name and where you are from?
Hello. Good afternoon. My name is Notabo Mukwebo, and I'm a PhD candidate in urban and regional planning, but primarily I'm a photographer who's been working in municipal migrant hostels. A few weeks ago, I attended an ethics workshop at the university, and I asked this following question, since I am looking at how rural life plays itself out in the urban hostels. And one of the things that happens in this space is that I find myself having to engage with participants who allow Induna, which is the headsman, to give consent for them to participate. Secondly, or you find a participant who will be like, no, if Ubudondala Avuma, I will participate. Meaning if the eldest brother agrees to participate in this research, I will participate. And I asked them whether this was ethical, and I was shut down and I was told this is not ethical. So my practice and that those questions that I want to engage with my participants would not be ethical. But that raised a lot of questions for me, that what happens when where a participant wants to participate, but their voice has been shut and silenced by the institution because it does not recognize their customs and their tradition within an urban space. So my question to the panel and to everyone, because I couldn't get a conversation because I was shut down and very frustrated afterwards, was that how do I go about and navigate this? Where I want to get my PhD, but there's a question of whether I'm ethical in what it is that I want to do, or do I go ahead and challenge this within my method of research within my PhD?
Thank you very much. I think that's an important question, and I hope that somebody will take that up. Thank you. Any other questions? We'll take about 2 more questions. The person at the back over there, can you tell us who you are and where you are from, and your question?
I'm loud enough, but good afternoon. My name is Agbo. I'm a postgraduate student in management in M&E. The question I want to ask the panelists is, what has been the role of evaluation uptake in development that we've seen in Africa? We see Rwanda is a beacon of hope for Africa today. We hear of evaluation being used in Ghana in a couple of places. Do you think that evaluation has a role to play in the growth of social, economic, human development in Rwanda? That is my main issue. And of course, as one person has said there, evaluation must have a human face. Evaluation is about social, economic, and human development. Whatever you do in paper, if it doesn't result into that, then it is not very useful. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I think the question about evaluation uptake and its implication for social and human and economic development is quite important, so thank you. And can we have the person in front here? Can you tell us who you are and where you are from and your question?
Thank you. My name is Vincent Senyo and I'm from Uganda. My question is thinking about politics in evaluation. Most of the participants here from various countries have already demonstrated to us that at times the politicians frustrate the efforts of the evaluators, most especially if the research findings are not in conformity to what the politicians expect. Sarafina from Zambia told us that for the time they've been in the M&E section, they've not even had enough funds or human resources to have the evaluations they're supposed to do. So my question is, after generating all this evidence across the continent and the country, if it's not in the interest of the politicians who are governing us, where else can we disseminate this information? so it can reach the end users? Do you have a kind of a container platform whereby you can publish that kind of information? In any or the other, maybe other countries can learn from it, and it may have maybe a trickle-down effect to the concerned people. Even in our politicians back home may not be at ease with this kind of information. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think the importance of dissemination strategies is something that we need to focus on, so thanks for that. Yes, and I'm going to take the second last question here. In front, please tell us who you are and where you are from.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Richard Nyega from Kenya, and I have a question that is direct to the panelists from Ghana. Look at the presentation he made based on the functioning of Parliament. I want to mention that Ghana just completed another preparation of the M&E policy. And I want to know now that now they're headed towards operationalization of the policy, how will this one strengthen the oversight function of Parliament? I consider a lot of information now, or issue of evaluation and what have you, will now be available. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the oversight question is quite important, especially in the context of Parliament and how the M&E policy will operationalize that. Thank you very much. And we have a last question right in front of you. Please tell us who you are and where you are from.
I'm Jennifer Sakuya. I'm from Zambia, but I work here for WB. So my question is directed at firstly, I think I would like to thank all the panelists. Very interesting discussions and thought-provoking questions that they've given to us. But for Uganda especially, I like the idea of the Baraza, where you take the evidence generated to write to the communities. What is the process then of what you get from the communities, that validation? Like, for example, I'm sure the community will have questions, further maybe recommendations. How does that feed back then to the policymakers so that they can improve upon the interventions and programs that are being undertaken for the people of Uganda? Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the importance of citizens' evidence and how it is actually taken up by the policymakers or taken to the policymakers. Thank you very much. So I'm going to ask our panelists to respond. You can select which question you felt was specifically for you or which one you'd like to respond to. And so we'll start with Grace over there and we'll move around until the last speaker. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Very interesting questions. So three questions actually that resonate with me. And I'll start with the one from the student. The very central theme of the SDGs is leaving no one behind. Now, the people that are usually left behind are those without a voice. So, if we want to not leave anyone behind, we should not shy away because there's space. So the people, they don't have safe space, so we cannot reach them, so we can't get their voices. So I think the solution to your problem, and this is in general, is we have to make an effort to create a safe space for these people, because we need to hear their voice. So in your case, you need to look at the situation and say, how else can I still make sure that I hear these people, that they have spaces? And one of the things that we make sure when we do our evaluations in World Food Program, we are very conscious about situations where women cannot speak when men are there, or children are not allowed to speak. And we make sure that we have separate focus group discussions or create situations where everyone's voice can be heard. And that's critical. The second question that is of interest is on the politics. And that politicians will oppose evidence if it goes against what they want to do. Now, if they usually go against evidence when it's being generated, the solution is involve them in the generation. And I will give you an example without naming the countries. One of the things you're trying to do in the World Food Program is to have joint evaluations with the governments and make sure that the consultation is not just with the Ministry of Education, but we got other players within the government. And the process is consultative, the process is well documented, the process is credible. By the time you have the evaluation report, even if a politician doesn't like the findings, they have no space to oppose it, because it was credible. And we're trying to do this in 1 or 2 countries since last year. And one of the PSs in one of the countries, permanent secretary, when I was there, she said, you know what? I think my colleagues in the Prime Minister's office are starting to see why this program is important. But that's the same ministry that was actually opposed to the program at some point. So I think knowing that the politicians may be against the evidence involved, make it so consultative, so documented, and then make sure it's out there that if a person tries to say, no, we don't agree with that, they don't have the space to do that. Or the space is so minimal that they can't actually do that. The last question I would like to address is the one on to what extent evaluation actually is impacting the development that we're seeing. Now, 2 ways to look at that. Some of the decisions that senior people in government make, either they make based on what they know, and therefore, if evaluation is not available at the time that they want to make the decisions, they use other sources. So now within the international development arena, we're starting to think about influential evaluation, not just evaluations. So you're trying to think, okay, we want to make sure that we have influential evaluations. And if that's what you want to have, then you have to think about the timing of the decisions. When does the parliament sit to make decisions to approve social budget? Now, if I want my evaluation to be influential, then I have to time it so that the evidence is available at that point. And I believe unless we can do that, we can have very good evidence, but then it's not used because it came when the decision was already made. So the timing is absolutely critical. And finally, I think 3 of my panelists mentioned it. The reason why I raised the question of who generates this evidence is sexual law. Because if you get someone from out, comes and evaluates a government program, and gives you a report, it is hardly that a government officer will take that and say, I'm going to table that to Parliament so we can use it. As opposed to if you say, we're going to do it jointly with the government, it doesn't matter if you do all the work. And my colleagues in the UN know we do that a lot. We play that game a lot. It does not matter if I go to your office and I sit there every day and we generate the report together. Why? Because I know the moment your logo for your ministry is there, that increases the use. It takes longer because government machines move slower.
Yeah.
But we know the moment your logo is there, and so it's really critical for us to who is it that is seeing the machinery that is generating the evidence, and that does affect whether or not it's opposed to begin with, and whether or not it's used.
Okay, thanks very much, Grace, for sharing, responding to so many of the questions. So I'm going to ask, I'm conscious of the time, so I'm going to ask that the rest of the speakers keep it very brief and focus perhaps on one question. So I'm going to ask Zakaria, there was a specific question around Ghana's MNE policy operationalization and how it will support evidence use.
Yes, I'm very glad to hear that question. You know, when we talk of Parliament, there are a few things that people know about Parliament. And sometimes we call it a political institution because it's made out of politicians, and so therefore we don't pay attention to a lot of the things that they do. But one thing we should know is that Parliament is made up of people from varied backgrounds. They did not come into Parliament because of their expertise. They did not come into Parliament because they have knowledge of everything. They came in just because the communities that they come from decided to vote them to come in. And in most of our countries, in my country, there is no academic qualification for entry into Parliament. You don't need a degree, you don't need a certificate to qualify you to become a member of Parliament. Meanwhile, it is an institution where you have a lot of things varied coming from all human endeavors that comes in for them to discuss. So they don't really have the technical know-how to deal with all manner of things that come before them. And so therefore they are always in constant need of information. They are always in constant need of evidence, irrespective of the political color. But the other thing we should know about Parliament is that that is the only arm of government that is made up of the different, political, alienation. That is where you can have the opposition, and that's where you can have the government. If you go to the executive, it is basically the government in power. So if you get evidence from a systematic policy, you have an evidence policy that can generate evaluation reports, evaluation days, no matter what. If the executive arm of government is failing to use them, let them get to the legislature. In the legislature, if the executive part of Parliament, those in government, are not using it, the opposition will use it. And then in the end, it gets utilized. So having the policy in place is a very good thing because it will generate the information anyway. If the executive government is not using it, the other arm of the opposition in Parliament will definitely use it and then we'll get the results. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much. And then I'm going to ask Roland, who spoke about the barazas, especially to respond to the question about how evidence from communities gets to the policymakers.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. The way the community forum is coordinated is right from the top. So the Office of the Prime Minister, which is in charge of coordination, monitoring, and evaluation of all government programs, takes the lead in this program. We go down to the community level. We work through the districts, which are the local government administrative arm, and we task what they call a resident district commissioner, or an RDC, who is in charge of monitoring at that level, to chair the meeting. So once the presentations are made on service delivery and what has been done, then the community have members who come up front and ask the questions across the different thematic areas that were presented. The questions are recorded, and we have someone from the Office of the Prime Minister taking record. We have an independent rapporteur who is hired separately to also have a separate report. We have video evidence that is recorded and documented, and then we have to have political goodwill as well in the meeting, so we ensure that there is at least one minister present on that day to ensure that if there's anything that is at policy level that needs to be taken to cabinet, the minister is there to have quick responses if they're required, or where the follow-up is needed, then they can have the follow-up. We also have the area members of Parliament attending these barazas, because now they represent the voice of the people. Then where there are issues of security, sometimes the communities have questions about security, we have the district police commissioner also present. So when all these issues that have been raised are noted, then we don't just take the comments made, because we have to validate them. So we let the heads of the different units at the district level come back and respond to those that can be responded to immediately. Whatever they can't respond to, sometimes they'll say, we did this on a road, you say it wasn't done, or the contractor who we contracted to come and work on the road did not do what he was supposed to do, as we have read in our report, we shall follow up. So then we task who follows up. And then we also follow up with the responsible ministries. For example, something will be raised on health. We have to go back to the Ministry of Health and follow up to see that whatever issue was raised is responded to and addressed. Then we give them a period, so a quarter in our government setup is 3 months. After 3 months, which we assume as enough time for the responsible person to come and address the issue, we then follow up again as OP, as the Office of the Prime Minister, to ensure that if it wasn't addressed, then we give a time for it to be addressed.
Thank you very much. I hope that answers the question. And so lastly, Tabo spoke about the importance of sharing the stories that we have and being activists and to advocate for what is going well while we also focus on what's not going so well, and there was a question around dissemination strategies. So Thabo, we'd like to ask you to address that as a last response.
Thank you, and I apologize for looking the other way. When you are a local, you give the visitors the chair. But anyway, I think it's important, colleagues, to disseminate all evidence, whether it's good for yourself or not, or even the information that is not good for government. It's important that the citizen is informed of each and everything that is happening. And I must indicate that even in South Africa, there is a gap in terms of either information dissemination, but also even the participation of the citizen in processes, whether it's evaluation or even monitoring. There's that gap that really needs to be closed. And it can only be closed when we as citizens are also active. I need to check, when last were you part of an IDP process in your ward? Okay, IDP is integrated integrated development planning process. When last, any of us can, with a show of hands? You see, it's only one person. And in those meetings, that's where decisions are made in relation to the development of the area that you are in. So hence I'm saying it's important, colleagues, and I'm hoping that from today we'll also be as active in those meetings so that you close the gap between what government does and what is it that as citizens want them to do. Thank you.
Thanks very much. So unfortunately we don't have time for any more questions and comments, but we know that this conversation is